Welcome, listeners, to another chilling episode of 101 Ghost Stories. Tonight, we're taking you on a journey through the 8 most haunted cemeteries in Australia. These burial grounds hold more than just the bodies of the departed. They are home to spirits who refuse to rest. Before we dive in, a huge thank you to all our subscribers. If you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more eerie tales. And if you visited any of these cemeteries or live near them, share your experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories. Nestled in the town of Albany, Western Australia, lies a cemetery that dates back to the early 1800s, the Stirling Terrace Cemetery. As one of the oldest burial grounds in the region, its ancient gravestones have weathered the passage of time, and with them, the whispers of restless spirits. But one spirit in particular has captured the attention of visitors and locals alike. A woman in white, said to wander through the cemetery's grounds, her long dress flowing like mist in the moonlight. According to legend, she is the mourning spirit of a mother, forever searching for the child she lost long ago. Witnesses describe seeing her standing near graves, head bowed, as if in eternal grief. As you walk through the cemetery, you may hear unexplained cries and whispers, sounds that seem to carry on the wind, yet have no visible source. Those who dare to venture into the cemetery after dark often report feeling an intense chill, as if they're being watched by unseen eyes. Some even claim to have felt a cold hand brush against their skin, a fleeting but terrifying touch. Albany is no stranger to ghostly tales, and Stirling Terrace Cemetery holds its own as one of the most haunted places in Western Australia. The shadows that stretch between the gravestones tell stories of a past that refuses to fade, and for those brave enough to visit, they may leave with more than just a memory. Haunted Cemetery Number 7. Gore Hill Cemetery, Sydney, NSW. In the bustling city of Sydney, not far from the modern skyline, lies a cemetery that has become synonymous with paranormal activity, Gore Hill Cemetery. Opened in 1868, it was once the final resting place for many of Sydney's early settlers. Now, it stands as a haunting reminder of lives long lost, and spirits who remain tethered to the earth. Visitors to Gore Hill have reported seeing strange, ethereal lights flickering among the tombstones, as if someone or something is wandering the graveyard after dark. But the most frequent sightings are of shadowy figures gliding silently between the gravestones. These figures are often spotted at dusk or early in the morning, before vanishing into the mist like phantoms from another world. One of the most famous ghostly inhabitants of the cemetery is a young girl. Witnesses describe her as no more than 12 years old, her pale face framed by dark hair. She's often seen near the children's section of the cemetery, standing by the graves as though watching over them. Some say they've heard her laughter echoing through the night, while others have seen her waving before she disappears into the shadows. But Gore Hill's ghostly activity isn't limited to sightings. Chilling cold spots, even on warm summer nights, have left visitors feeling unnerved, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps, following, but with no one there, has been reported time and time again. The cemetery may be quiet during the day, but as the sun sets and the shadows stretch longer, Gore Hill Cemetery transforms into a place where the past comes alive and the living are not alone. Haunted Cemetery Number 6. West Terrace Cemetery, Adelaide. Located in Adelaide, West Terrace Cemetery is one of South Australia's oldest burial grounds, dating back to 1837. It's a place where thousands of souls rest, but not all of them rest peacefully. Over the years, West Terrace Cemetery has become notorious for its haunted reputation. As dusk falls, visitors have reported seeing a soldier dressed in full World War I regalia, wandering among the graves. This ghostly figure is believed to be the spirit of a young soldier, cut down in battle, forever lost in the cemetery, searching for his comrades. Witnesses say they have seen him standing motionless by his own grave, as if waiting for something or someone that never comes. But it's not just the soldier that haunts this eerie place. The cemetery is home to the infamous West Terrace ghost, a shadowy apparition that has been terrifying visitors for decades. Described as a dark figure with no discernible features, it's been spotted gliding between gravestones late at night. Some say they felt its presence close behind them, only to turn and find nothing but empty space. The legend goes that this specter follows those who dare enter the cemetery after dark, instilling a sense of dread and fear that lingers long after they've left. Unexplained screams, disembodied voices, and strange whispers are common here. Visitors often report a sudden drop in temperature as they walk through certain sections of the cemetery, accompanied by the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Paranormal investigators have recorded eerie sounds and strange phenomena that they struggle to explain, making West Terrace Cemetery one of Australia's most haunted and feared graveyards. For those brave enough to walk its paths, it's not just the dead who are waiting. Haunted Cemetery Number 5. Gawler Cemetery, Gawler. Gawler Cemetery, located in the historic town of Gawler in South Australia, might seem like a quiet and peaceful resting place during the day, but as night falls, the atmosphere changes. With its Gothic-style graves and sprawling grounds, Gawler Cemetery is known for more than just its eerie appearance. It's haunted by spirits who refuse to leave. The most famous of these is the Lady in Black. Locals describe her as a mournful figure dressed in an old-fashioned black gown, who is often seen wandering among the tombstones late at night. Her story is tragic. She is said to have lost her entire family to illness, and her spirit now haunts their graves, weeping for the ones she loved and lost. Witnesses report seeing her standing silently by certain graves, her head bowed, whispering the names of the dead. Her apparition is often accompanied by the faint sound of sobbing, which echoes eerily through the cemetery's still air. But the Lady in Black isn't the only ghost haunting Gawler Cemetery. Visitors have also reported encountering the ghosts of children, heard laughing and playing in the dead of night. These playful spirits are believed to be the souls of young children buried in the cemetery during the 19th century, their lives cut tragically short by disease. Those who have witnessed the children say they've seen small figures darting between the gravestones, their laughter fading into the distance as they vanish into the night. The cemetery itself exudes an oppressive feeling, with some visitors describing it as a place where time stands still. People who visit alone often report a sense of being followed, and many have fled the grounds after hearing footsteps or sensing an unseen presence close behind them. Paranormal investigators have detected strange anomalies, including phantom voices and sudden bursts of electromagnetic energy. Gawler Cemetery is a place where the line between the living and the dead seems blurred, a place where the past never truly lets go. Haunted Cemetery Number 4. Rookwood Cemetery, Sydney, NSW. Rookwood Cemetery, located in Sydney, is not just any cemetery. It's the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. With over 1 million people buried there, Rookwood is more than just a final resting place. It's a city of the dead, sprawling with a labyrinth of graves, tombstones, and crypts. But among these graves, it's said that some souls never found peace. One of the most frequently cited ghosts is the Lady in Blue, a woman who roams the older parts of the cemetery. Dressed in a flowing blue gown, she is often seen drifting between the gravestones, her face obscured by a veil. Witnesses describe feeling an unnatural coldness whenever she appears, followed by the unmistakable sensation that they're being watched. Some say she's searching for her lost lover, while others claim she was buried alive and now wanders Rookwood in a perpetual state of confusion and sorrow. But Rookwood's hauntings don't stop there. The cemetery is infamous for strange lights that flicker around the tombstones at night, with no apparent source. Paranormal investigators have recorded whispers and voices on EVP, electronic voice phenomena, that seem to come from nowhere. One particularly chilling voice, captured near an old family crypt, said just 2 words, "Come closer." Visitors also speak of a ghostly figure of a man, often seen pacing between gravestones as if lost in thought or searching for something long forgotten. He is described as an older man in outdated clothing, and while he never interacts with the living, his presence leaves a sense of deep sorrow in those who encounter him. Grave diggers have their own stories to tell. Many have reported tools moving on their own or hearing the sound of unseen footsteps echoing across the cemetery at night. Some even refuse to work after dark, fearing they may encounter something they can't explain. With its size and history, Rookwood Cemetery is a place where death doesn't always mean the end, and where the living and the dead often cross paths. Haunted Cemetery Number 3. Toowong Cemetery, Brisbane, QLD. Set in the heart of Brisbane, Toowong Cemetery is a vast and sprawling graveyard established in 1866. While it serves as the final resting place for many notable figures, it's also a hotspot for paranormal activity, with countless reports of ghostly encounters. Perhaps the most famous ghost in Toowong Cemetery is Mr. Perkins, a former gravedigger who worked the grounds for many years. Long after his death, visitors and caretakers have claimed to see his ghost roaming the cemetery, shovel in hand, as if still going about his work. He's often described as a tall, shadowy figure, and those who've encountered him say he moves silently, vanishing as suddenly as he appears. Some say that if you listen closely during the stillness of the night, you can hear the soft scraping of his shovel against the earth, as if he's digging a grave that no longer exists. But Mr. Perkins isn't alone in his haunting. Toowong Cemetery is also known for the cries and whispers that seem to emanate from its oldest sections. These voices, faint but unmistakable, have been heard by visitors walking the cemetery's winding paths. Some say they've even heard names being called, but when they turn to see who it is, they find only silence and empty graves. Another unsettling feature of the cemetery is the feeling of being watched. Paranormal investigators report frequent sightings of shadowy figures, flickering in and out of sight, especially near the older graves. Cold spots, too, are common, with temperatures plummeting suddenly in certain parts of the cemetery, leaving visitors chilled to the bone. Then there are the EVP recordings, which have captured voices and sounds that defy explanation. One of the clearest recordings from the cemetery contains the sound of a child laughing, followed by a voice that whispers, "Help me." Investigators believe these spirits are tied to tragic deaths that occurred during the cemetery's long history, including those of young children who were taken too soon by disease. For those who visit Toowong Cemetery, it's not just the graves of Brisbane's past that they encounter, but the spirits of those who can't seem to let go of this world. Haunted Cemetery Number 2. St. John's Cemetery, Parramatta. Hidden in the historic suburb of Parramatta, St. John's Cemetery is the oldest known European burial ground in Australia, established in 1790. While it may seem like just another old cemetery at first glance, the stories told by those who have visited after dark suggest otherwise. Many believe that St. John's is haunted by the restless souls of convicts and settlers who were buried there in unmarked graves, their tragic lives and untimely deaths leaving a deep, spiritual imprint on the land. One of the most famous ghosts is that of George the Barber Bruce, a convict barber who was executed for murder in 1834. It's said that his spirit can still be seen wandering the cemetery at night, dressed in his convict uniform, his face shrouded in darkness. Witnesses describe seeing him standing near his own grave, staring at passers-by with hollow eyes before vanishing into thin air. Some claim that if you walk the cemetery paths alone at night, you can hear his footsteps echoing behind you, slow, deliberate, and always just out of sight. Another spectral figure reported by visitors is the White Lady. She is said to be the ghost of a settler woman who died of illness, and now her apparition is often seen wandering through the cemetery, dressed in a long white gown, gliding silently between the tombstones. People have reported feeling an intense sadness wash over them when they see her, as though they're experiencing her grief from beyond the grave. The oldest sections of St. John's Cemetery are the most active. In addition to the apparitions, there are frequent reports of cold spots, the sudden chill in the air that sends shivers down the spine, even on the warmest nights. Paranormal investigators who have visited the cemetery have captured EVPs of whispers and eerie sounds, with one recording clearly catching a voice saying, "Don't leave." With its long history, tragic tales, and unmarked graves, St. John's Cemetery is a place where the past and the present collide, and where the spirits of Australia's earliest inhabitants still linger, unable or unwilling to move on. Haunted Cemetery Number 1. Old Melbourne Jail Cemetery, Melbourne. In the heart of Melbourne lies a site that once housed Australia's most notorious criminals, the Old Melbourne Jail. This historic prison was home to hundreds of executions, including that of the infamous outlaw Ned Kelly. But what many don't know is that, just outside its walls, there's a small, now unmarked cemetery where some of the executed prisoners were buried. And with so much violent history tied to this place, it's no surprise that the cemetery, like the jail itself, is haunted by restless spirits. One of the most terrifying reports involves the ghost of Frederick Bailey Deeming, a notorious murderer who was hanged at the jail in 1892. His body was buried in the jail cemetery, but many say his spirit never left. Witnesses have reported seeing a dark, shadowy figure wandering near the site of his unmarked grave. This figure is often described as malevolent, exuding an overwhelming sense of anger and fear. Some visitors claim to have felt an invisible force pushing them away from the cemetery, as if they were being warned not to come any closer. The cemetery is also home to the spirits of innocent men wrongfully executed in the jail's long history. It's said that their ghosts can be heard weeping late at night, their cries echoing through the air. Visitors often report feeling an oppressive sense of sadness and injustice when they walk near the cemetery, as if the spirits are still crying out for their innocence to be recognized. And then there are the strange orbs of light that float above the graves at night. Unexplainable glowing spheres that drift silently through the darkness, vanishing as quickly as they appear. Paranormal investigators have captured footage of these lights, as well as unseen footsteps crunching on gravel when no one else is around. The most spine-chilling story, however, comes from those who claim to have seen the ghost of Ned Kelly himself. While his body was moved from the jail years later, many believe that his spirit still lingers at the place where he met his end. Witnesses describe seeing a man dressed in old-fashioned clothing, standing at the edge of the cemetery, staring into the distance. He never speaks, but his presence is unmistakable, heavy and foreboding. For those who visit the Old Melbourne Jail Cemetery, the spirits of the past are very much alive, their stories etched into the very ground beneath your feet. And that wraps up our journey through the 8 most haunted cemeteries in Australia. Each of these burial grounds carries a legacy not only of those laid to rest, but of spirits who still wander among the living. If you've ever visited any of these cemeteries or live near them, we'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales from 101 Ghost Stories. Until next time, stay spooky, friends,